Here we go. Hello, everybody. Hello once again on this beautiful Friday night. It's Friday night, right? Thank God it's Friday, ladies. Thank God it's Friday. Listening audience, if you're watching the replay, this is the Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette show, live on Real Talk 100 Radio. If you're watching us live, same thing, y'all. Same bat channel. We're back. It's the Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette show. Tonight, we're going to talk about healthy relationships, building relationships, and family wellness with Dr. Annette and Dr. Tasha Kelly Harris, everybody. We're about to get started. But let me pay a bill right quick. I got to pay a bill. I got chewed out last week. You didn't mention me. So I got to make sure I pay the bills right quick because we're nothing without our sponsors. We want you to go to wagonsforusa.com right now and shop for the best baby stroller in the world. You might say, Malcolm, I don't have any babies in my family right now. That's all right. This is good for the beach. It's good for hunting and fishing and shopping. Put all your groceries in there, all your fishing tackle, and all your hunting gear in there. Put your beers in there, your wine, and go to the beach. Fill it up with ice. It's wagonsforusa.com. Go shopping tonight. Thank you, Wagonsfold. We're nothing without you. Thank you. Now, with no more further ado, we're going to get to the show, and it's the Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette show. Hey, Doc.
Hey.
The good doctor.
Thank you.
Once again, the good doctor's back. I'm glad to see you. And it's winding down. We got 7 days, excuse me.
Yeah.
And you see, I keep trying to stretch it out. 10, 15.
Yeah.
7 days left. And it's going to be a finale, y'all. You football fans, y'all get ready. We're going to have a Hall of Famer coming in on the Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette show. Her last week is next Friday night. Get ready. Can I spill the beans and tell them who it is?
Pull a flyer or two if you like.
I don't have it loaded right
okay.
now, but
All right.
we will have Rodney Hampton in the building. Hall of Famer for the New York Giants, everybody. If you're a football fanatic, an NFL fanatic, yes, he will be in the building next Friday night. But with no more further ado, let's get to the good doctor and Miss Natasha about family wellness. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. If you know any families who are in trouble or who need help building their families, restructuring their families, anything along those lines, this is a show. Give them a tag and let them join in. We have a call-in number. I'm going to add it right now. And to the show we go. Dr. Annette, you ready?
Yeah.
Just a little bit?
Just a little bit.
All right.
I'm ready.
I needed to check before no, I'm just playing with you. You know I like to joke
Does
around.
my mic sound nice?
Does your mic
Check
sound nice? Yes, ma'am.
That's it.
You're not gonna keep giving my age.
Well, I'm giving mine too.
Right.
So yeah.
All of ours.
Okay. All right.
We already have Bridget Lott tuned in on YouTube. She says, hello, everyone. Happy Friday. And we have Janice Johnson Senegal. She says, hello.
Hey, ladies. How are you?
Yeah.
Glad you joined us tonight. All right. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you Tasha Kelly Harris.
Yes.
And I'm so happy to have her tonight. And we're going to talk some good stuff. She's going to talk about the nonprofit that she started. I don't want to give too much away. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Annette, for having me. I am so excited here. Let me just make a slight correction. I'm not quite a doctor yet. I hope to become one soon, but Natasha Kelly here is who I am. I am the founder and CEO of Family Roots for Life, Inc. And prior to Family Roots, I should say, in terms of who I am, and before that, I am married. I have a husband of 24 years.
Awesome.
We have been together for 41 years, though, this month. So long time. And we do have one college-age junior son, a son who's in college, a junior at this time. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, I remember working with you years ago, and it must have been through CPS. Or maybe you were with DePelton.
Probably so. Maybe so. It's been a while.
Yeah, but our paths have crossed because we're really in the same industry.
Absolutely.
And so, you just see familiar faces, you get to know people. And again, I'm glad that DeWanna brought us together.
Absolutely. I am too.
Yeah. So you've worked with families and children for how long?
A long time, Annette.
Okay. All right.
We're talking about age here. So it's been 30 years that I have been in this field of working on behalf of children and families, primarily in child welfare that involves foster care, adoption, post-adoption, residential, mental health. And I have worked for a number of different organizations, both public and private, and in different states throughout the country, primarily here in Texas, but also Arizona. Lived and worked there for about 8.5 years. Also worked on behalf of an organization out of Minneapolis, Minnesota for a couple of years. Also did some work on behalf of the federal government, the Children's Bureau, as a consultant, traveling around the country and evaluating child welfare programs for a while as an independent consultant. But yeah, have done this for quite a long time, have worked across the whole spectrum of children's services, prevention, early intervention, like I said, foster care, adoption, post-adoption, and then that's all was what led me to where I am now, Family Roots.
So where does the passion come from?
Oh my gosh. I just have a heart for people, number one, and for children. Oftentimes people come to this field because they say they, were either impacted by foster care or something, or had something in their history. That is not the case for me. When I was in college, took a counseling course and really wanted to become an attorney. That was talk about being a doctor. I really wanted to become an attorney. That was my goal in life since 8th grade. And in college, when I took that counseling course, it just really hit a chord with me and realized that was just who I was. And so I thought, okay, once I graduated college, was tired of being broke and needing a job, and law school is going to be, 3 more years. I was like, I need to work. And so someone at the time suggested that I work for Child Protective Services. I didn't even know what it was at the time, because my bachelor's degree is actually in sociology. I was, again, planning to go into law. And I applied for the job, got the job, and have never been able to leave it after 30 years. So I just have a heart for people and a heart for children, and wanting to see the best in people and wanting to see children, thrive.
Okay. All right. So you started a nonprofit, and you and I talked briefly about this, guys. So talking about having a contingency plan.
Yeah.
So that was a layoff. We won't say where, but that was a layoff. And
and then that's what started in 2020. So might I say, so it's not been that long, even though, gosh, 2020 is, we're already in 2024. It's so hard to believe. But yeah, that's what happened. Although I will say, back up a few years, while living and working in the Phoenix, Arizona area, had several colleagues there at the time who had talked about starting something. But I was newlywed, just starting, career somewhat earlier in my career, and just wasn't quite ready for that. I knew that there was going to be a big undertaking. Then it was also hard to leave what I was already doing. This work is really, it gets you in there. Once you're in there, you're in, and you just feel so responsible for taking care of the people with whom you're responsible for, and that's the children and the families and the staff and all that. And so I was just really into that, and just couldn't really get off that wheel of working in these programs or for these other organizations until, again, moving back home here to Houston and working for an organization. And then a layoff happened in 2020. And honestly, at the time, obviously, it was, unexpected, but God spoke immediately. I mean, immediately. So at that point, then it wasn't as much of a burden for me as it was just, okay, really, what next? And he really just kept saying, do your own. And honestly, he sent 7 different people to me on different occasions who didn't know each other, didn't even really know. And they kept saying, just start your own. And I was like, whatever, I just really don't want to. That's a lot of work. I'll just go work for somebody else. And it just kept coming to me. So I started doing my research and really pulled back up all these old notes that I had written and typed, years ago, and they were still there. And it was actually like 2004. So it was 20 years ago now, at the time, 16. And I still had all that. And so just reading it just really gave me this just real inspiration to go ahead and just do it. So I started consulting different people, just trying to find out if it's something I wanted to do like now, or did I want to take a break, or just, really just rest. And God really just opened up doors that I didn't ask for at the time, and he just did. And I could not walk in them. Right. So I was really kind of thrust into it. And I'm grateful for it, right? Everything happens for a reason, I do believe. And even though the timing didn't seem right for me or to me, but it actually was.
It was the right time.
Yeah, the right time.
And sometimes we need that little
extra
swift kick.
And he knows me. That's the thing, because I'm like, okay, I will. But he's like, oh, no, you need to do it now.
Yeah.
And so that's how it happened.
Okay. All right. And so the name of the organization
is Family Roots for Life.
Okay. And how did you come up with that name?
I love family. I love everything family. And I've been wondering, how am I going to answer this question when people ask me? Again, I opened up those notes that I had from all those years ago, and I had written all these things about, what I wanted to do if I had my own organization to help children and families. Family Roots was not the name that was listed on there, but it honestly just came to me when I thought about what it is that we're trying to do.
Purpose.
And its purpose and what have you. And really, when we talk about Family Roots, our mission is to reunite, reconnect, and restore children, youth, and families through the provision of social, emotional, and behavioral health services to ensure child and family well-being.
Gotcha.
And a big part of our work, because of all the years that I've worked in child welfare and on behalf of children and families, and seeing all of what I've seen, along the way, I just know that there is a need for us to really focus on family more than just on foster care, on adoption, those words, but not really the family of what that means. And the roots piece came from the fact that, children are removed from their homes for different reasons, typically some type of abuse, neglect, or a trauma, and they come into the system, and it's supposed to only be temporary, right? Foster care is really a temporary service. Unfortunately, many children end up lingering in that system for much longer than what they need to or should. And so what we find is even the ones who are placed for adoption and actually are adopted oftentimes do not give up or forget about that birth family connection, right? As a system, unfortunately, we have a tendency to sort of just sweep the birth family away and just focus now on the foster family and the adoptive family. And we thank God for those wonderful adoptive and foster families who are angels at heart to do what they do, but we can never forget about the birth family.
That's right.
And as a system, we've not done the best job of that. And so that's why Family Roots exists, to remind us that no matter what, these are these children's family roots for life.
You just brought something to mind, and it's not here, but I don't know if you were with the agency when they had the family preservation units. And those were the teams that would go into the homes. And really, folks, to preserve the family.
Yes.
Removal was the last.
Should have been, absolutely.
The last thing that was considered. Once someone went into the home and helped with, cooking and cleaning and all of that stuff, that was a training program to help parents help themselves and to help their children. And I remember when that was taken away and the removal rate just skyrocketed. And here we are in this place, and I won't get into disproportionality and disparity tonight.
It is an issue.
It is an issue. It is an issue. And in some cases, I think we've done more harm than good by removing. But if we can reconnect.
Yes, that's the goal.
And not just reconnect, but provide the services, which you do. Okay, they provide the services, the therapeutic services to heal that family.
Yes.
That is a
Absolutely.
blessing.
And heal in the midst of the children, even if they have to be removed temporarily. And I do know, I want to give credit to those within the state organization who are really working hard to do this, because there are some awesome individuals who work on behalf of the state to do this work, and other organizations, other community providers that really have the heart. It's just that the way the system is designed and the way it's structured, it doesn't really allow you to really do the work that you want to be able to do within that structure. And what I mean by that is, even though we know that when children come into care, the idea is to get them out as soon as possible and back with relative placements, either kinship family, fictive kin, or what have you, and or even if that's not possible to move them through quicker, there's all kinds of barriers that get in the way.
Absolutely.
And we have to be mindful that the CPS system is all a legal system, right? That we're on the court's time frame, right? So it's not, that's what for the listening audience and for those who are not familiar with how things work, it's not just the CPS worker or that, unit and supervisor, whatever, making those decisions. No, there are judges and attorneys and other people who are involved who are helping to make those decisions. There's timelines, legal timelines, and there's court hearings that happen every so often. And so that sometimes can draw out the process. It sometimes, can prolong it. Sometimes it makes it happen sooner than what it needs to, because one of the things that's important to realize is that many of our families that these children are coming from are in desperate need. They have so many needs. They lack the resources. Sometimes we're dealing with addiction. Oftentimes, in fact, we're dealing with addiction. And we know that it is difficult to overcome addiction. And just because a parent has an addiction does not mean that they should never be able to see their children again, right? And we understand that there are harms that happen, but just as you said, sometimes we're doing more harm than good to remove them, because the one thing we know is you can never break that connection, no matter what. Right? No matter what, that connection exists for life, right? And so we have to just do better as a system, individually and collectively, collaboratively, to do better, to make the necessary improvements. And that's why Family Roots exists. We're here to help make some improvements to what we know is a broken system. And it's become more broken over time. You mentioned disproportionality and the disparities. That's a huge issue. We can talk about that for days. And what that means is that there are, unfortunately, a higher number of children of color who are in the system and who are impacted by not only child welfare, but juvenile justice and some other systems adversely than our counterparts. And we have to do something about that, because those rates are alarming, and they've been that way for many years. I mentioned I've been in this for 30 years, and I know for at least 20 years, we've been talking about it. And so we have to do better about that.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, be sure to call in. We'd love to entertain your questions tonight. And as you are contemplating whatever that is, we will continue this awesome conversation. So let's talk about some of the program offerings that Roots for Life offers.
Absolutely. So Family Roots for Life, we offer right now our signature programs, which include our Roots and Wings mentoring program. We also have our Hopes and Dreams transition services programming, which under that we provide life skills classes and small group sessions. We also facilitate vision boarding workshops. And we also have some other services under there that we've not yet fully launched just yet, but there will be more under that Hopes and Dreams programming. And then we have the real core of what I like to say is what Family Roots really was started on is our heartstrings, family finding and support services. The two that have been fully launched so far over the past couple of years are our mentoring program and our life skills classes. And so in those particular programs is where we serve primarily our transition age youth and young adults ages 14 to 24.
Now explain to the viewers what it means to be a transition age youth.
Yes, very important. So transition age youth is a label that's pretty much used with youth who are in the foster care system and or even juvenile justice system who are teenagers. So the adolescents starting around age 14 who we know we need to start preparing them, right? We need to start preparing them and help them with that transition. Really, all youth and all adolescents throughout the population can be considered transition because they're transitioning from childhood into adulthood. And as parents,
and I know you mentioned programs, but for those who don't understand what like preparation for adult living is, what are the components of that particular program.
So that's good. That's good that you say. And so I will say this. So to give the state credit that they do deserve to have, they do have what's called a PAL unit, preparation for adult living, as you mentioned. And that PAL unit of time when those youth are that age are required to go through a certain number of mandated classes. And those classes entail all the different areas of understanding, job skills, job preparation. So knowing how to build a resume, knowing how to interview. Some of this you get in your natural family and family that your parents are helping you with. Youth in foster care are not always getting that. We have to remember too, when we talk about foster care, we have to talk about the different types of placements that these youth are in. Not everybody who is in foster care is in an actual foster home, right? And so the ones who are in a foster home, hopefully they are getting that from their foster parents, but also we know those foster parents are busy. They have several children that they are managing and caring for. And because of foster care, children coming in and out, there's not always the time and effort that's needed on one particular child. So the state does have it in place to where this PAL unit is responsible for making sure they get these skills. So job training and preparation is one, housing, understanding what it's going to mean to live on your own, how to even access and get your own apartment, money management and budgeting. I mean, that's like number one. We all have to learn how to budget and how to manage our money. And so that's a big one. And then there are skills like understanding relationships, how to communicate well, how to build healthy relationships. We know that many of our youth in the foster care system, unfortunately, have experienced some sort of abuse, neglect, or abandonment, or even trauma that I mentioned. And so they haven't always had the best examples, right? And so we have to sort of retrain and teach them about what is healthy. How do you regulate your emotions? How do you handle yourself in relationship? And, as I was thinking about preparing for this, these were things that we don't think about. When you grow up in an intact traditional family, you're just getting this naturally from your parents or your caregivers, whoever's raising you. But when you're in foster care, you're unfortunately bouncing around from placement to placement. And again, sometimes it's a foster home. Sometimes it's what's called a general residential operation or a group home. Sometimes it's an RTC, which is a residential treatment center. Sometimes it's a shelter, or what have you. And so they're in different types of settings where they're not always getting this one-on-one time and attention to teach them how to do these things.
The things we take for granted.
Absolutely.
I want to digress just a minute and speak to how frightening it must be to be a transitioning youth. And I'm not talking about transition in terms of gender. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about transitioning from really a child to becoming an adult to living independently. Things that those of us, and again, I don't mean this, you guys know me, I don't mean any harm by this, but for those of us who grew up in an intact home, there are things to us that are just like common sense, because you said that these are things that we grew up with, things that we hear. But for someone who hasn't gotten that, and we see them making mistake after mistake, and it was like, why don't they just learn this lesson? Because again, it's just not second nature.
It's not. And also these youth are dealing with the trauma, right?
Yes, absolutely.
The trauma that they have experienced prior to coming into care, as well as unfortunately the perpetuated trauma of being in care. Because we have to acknowledge that it is traumatic to be separated from your family, to be separated from the things that you know and love. And I know it's hard for the average person to wrap your mind around the fact that, there might have been something that the child must have loved in that environment, but there was, even though there might have been some sort of abuse or some sort of neglect, they had familiar settings, right? Their familiar home, neighborhood, community, school, friends, other people that were around that they could rely on. And just everything that is now uprooted. And now you're in this system. And, again, the goal is to provide the care and safety and nurturing that the basic needs are being taken care of typically, but all this other stuff is not, and the state is trying, but it is a system. And the one thing that we've always known as a system is that CPS is not a good parent. CPS was not intended to be the parent for the child.
That's right.
And what happens is when a child is not soon returned to their birth family or reunified, that I know we'll talk about, or even moved swiftly into a safer, more permanent placement, such as adoption, and they're growing up yourself in this system. And unfortunately, that involves oftentimes moving from one place to the next. There are some situations where youth are able to remain in one home and can last there for some time, but the average youth moves about the system quite frequently. And with that being said, they're losing this opportunity to gain these soft skills, to gain these life skills. They're more in survival mode, right? They're just in survival mode. They're in that fight, mode. And that's what they're doing every day, just trying to survive. And oftentimes they're trying to get back to their family.
That's right. Yeah. And I want to add this also, the cultural piece.
Yes.
Even in a situation where a child who is African American or placed in an African American home, there still may not be that piece, that indoctrinated piece that I got from my grandmother, who knew her history and said, my grandma said we came from West Africa, and be proud about, all of those things.
That can help them with their identity.
Exactly.
Because when we talk about relationships, and we haven't gotten there yet, but you have to know who you are before you can get into a relationship with somebody else. And knowing who you are is way more than just knowing that you are, what your gender is, if you will, or how you identify in that way. It's really how you identify culturally. And many of us, we identify with our family culture, right? And so when you don't have that, because you've lost that connection, or that connection has been broken, and might I add, by a system and decisions that you had no control over. Because we have to remember that these are children. They didn't make the decision. These decisions are being made for them, but then they're growing up in this system with all these decisions being made for them. And then at age 18, they're expected to be emancipated and go about their lives as though everything is normal. And that's not the case. And we also, let me just say this, if you don't mind, we also know the average 18-year-old who grows up in an intact family is not ready to spread their wings and live independently on their own.
That's right.
Who is at 18, right?
Exactly.
Very few people are ready for that, and who can do so successfully and in a healthy way. And so these youth, for sure, are not. They're way behind in that sense. And so we have to have these services. We have to have programs such as this to help prepare them. Absolutely.
You laid a great segue. So I'm gonna skip this and come back, because you mentioned relationships.
Yes.
And I know we're going to focus on that. So I'm going to come back to this, the reunification piece.
No problem.
You just said something key in terms of even a child who grows up in an intact family. That does not necessarily mean that what was modeled for that child was appropriate in terms of relationships.
Very true.
And so our kids struggle, and I'm talking about our foster adopt youth, because we're talking about possibly missing the attachment piece very early in the formative years. If all I saw was fighting, if my mama was always a bee, and my, that kind of stuff, that shapes who I am.
Absolutely.
And by the time I'm 6, I've already developed a personality. And I think that is the way relationships are supposed to be.
That, as well as, even if it's not to the extreme of the verbal, abuse or even physical, let's just talk about different partners. Right? Let's talk about the multiple partners. And so then you talk about attachment and who can I trust, but what you've seen is so many different people, right? That has a huge impact on our children, and so you have to be mindful of that. And so they're dealing with that, as well as, again, being in a system where they're being moved around from placement to placement. The big question for them is, who's really who and who can I trust?
Exactly.
This whole term of mom and dad, that children use in the foster care system, that people use in general, but what is really a mom if I've had 10? In the last 15 years, I've had 10 moms. What is really a mom? And where is a dad? What is a dad? And then the cultural piece, being able to relate, being able to identify with, just missing out on all of that. And that is what has happened with thousands of children over decades of time. And let me add this too, just in terms of statistics. We have close to 20,000 children who age out of foster care across the country
Mhm.
every year.
Mhm.
It used to be over 20.
Mhm.
It's now just under 20,000, but that's a
Mhm.
lot.
That's a lot.
Aging out of foster care, which means they were not adopted.
Mhm.
And most
Mhm.
importantly, they were not reunified with their birth families.
And if they did not participate in some type of preparatory program, likely to be homeless.
Okay, so those statistics as well, they fall to homelessness. Some 20% fall to immediate homelessness. Okay, you're dealing with about 80% of them that struggle with mental health issues. As we know, the foster care system, we big about labeling, and diagnosing, and some of it is very accurate, and some of it is not. Most of it is due to all this movement and shuffling that's unnatural for anybody to have to experience. So of course, you're going to have some diagnoses.
That's
So
right.
you got mental health issues, and those who either are prescribed meds or not taking their meds. So what happens when they don't do that? They start to then self-medicate, and self-medicate leads to addiction, overuse, abuse, dependence, addiction.
That's right.
So then we've got so many youth struggling with that. Also trying to survive without the skills, the job skills, the life skills to be able to be employed. Then they fall to different crimes. Then you've got 60% of the males having some involvement with the law, unfortunately, and being incarcerated. You have 70% of females being pregnant before the age of 21. 70% are pregnant with their first child before the age of 21 if they did not already get pregnant while they were in care, as we have that happening also. So all the very dark, grim statistics that happen with these youth when they do not have the appropriate support and education around what it takes to live independently.
And it's a cycle.
It is.
It's systemic. It is, I'm just making this up. It's the grandma who beat her kids and was an alcoholic, which passed on to her children who beat their children, and now they're substance abusers. And it's just a
apple doesn't fall
cycle.
far from the tree kind of thing. But it's also because we're not really dealing with the root of the problem.
No, we're
in
not.
this country.
We're not.
And so that's the big issue, and the child welfare system is only one of many systems that needs to be addressed and improved, right? There are some who believe it should be overhauled and totally dismantled and all of that. I'm not saying that I'm on that side of things, but it does need some significant improvement with it, because there are issues that's happening in our communities, oftentimes our communities of color, and mostly it deals around poverty. Okay, we're dealing with poverty and few resources and an understanding of what it means to be in relationship, a healthy relationship, to break those curses and break those cycles, right? That haven't happened, and so that's where it becomes cyclical. And we have to do better. We have to do better for our children who are growing up, who have no idea that they are going to fall to this.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And we have a responsibility and obligation as the adults, the mature adults who've been around and who've seen things and who've seen this happen, to do something about it.
Absolutely.
Not tomorrow, not next year, not now.
Yeah.
We have to do 20,000 children. And those are just the ones that we know about.
Absolutely. I couldn't get it out.
Right. Those are the ones that we know about.
Right.
And that's what our future.
Yeah.
And that's what our future is.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to do something about it.
You took it right out of my mouth. I was going to say that these are your would-be employees.
Yeah.
These are your would-be caregivers.
Yes.
These, and again, I'm by no means generalizing and saying that just because you were in foster care or adopted, that because again, biological children could have their issues.
Yes.
But we're talking about those who have not had some type of intervention, and we're straight from the foster care pipeline to the prison pipeline.
Absolutely. And we're talking about it because, again, a system made the decision for their lives, right? A system that's in place, a structure that's in place, saw, that the family was not the best place for them. And so we bring them here, and that this is supposed to be a better place for them. But in many cases, it has not been. And so we have a responsibility to that, right? And yes, it can happen in, your birth families or what have you, but oftentimes you have a network of support there with extended family members and kinship and friends of family and your fictive kin and all of that happens. These children don't have that. They've been completely disconnected from that.
Yes.
And, they've just grown up, and we look at them now that they're 16 and 17 and 18, and we're looking at them as though they're this average 16, 17, 18-year-old, but they're not.
Nothing is average.
Oftentimes they're a delay developmentally, as we know, educationally, they're behind, and socially, in every realm, they just fall behind because as a system, we have not done our jobs to really make sure that they have the supports that they need.
So let's dive into. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have some comments or questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
The main most people, let me put myself on. Most people are just saying hello. We have Yolanda Kelly.
Yes.
Yolanda Kelly is on YouTube. She says, I'm loving this conversation. We have Miss Anto Survivor. Hello, Miss Williams. We have Juanita Brown Christian says, praise God.
Yes.
We have Photo Video Nation says, this is an awesome message.
Yes.
But the only question that we have, let me check Instagram right quick. No questions on Instagram. Thank you, Instagram. By the way, y'all are mighty quiet. You're more than welcome to call in on topic. The main question of concern right now is from Miss Bridget Lott, who's also tuned in on YouTube. She says, when children are taken from their home, how do you get a resistant child to engage in therapy?
Ooh, yeah. Very big question. So I'm taking as though they mean the child is already in foster care, I guess. And so, yeah, you have to break down those barriers, right? You of course, you have a situation where this child has been removed from their home, from everything that's been familiar. And now you're talking about this therapy.
Yeah.
And again, it goes into the whole mental health discussion that we know we need to do much better. We're doing, much better these days and have been in the past, but talking about mental health and how important that is for everybody, men, women, children at all ages, right? We have to take care of our mental health. So it is going to take just the right person to be able to reach that young individual, to let them understand, educate them about why it's important that they take care of their health and their mental health.
Yeah. I want to add to that too. Children have rights.
Yes.
And so we don't think about children having rights. And if a child is resistant to therapy, you can't force them into therapy. Now, there may come a time where a child may require hospitalization. If they're outcrying homicide or suicide, then, you just have to take that step and move on. But you cannot force a resistant child into therapy. And that's when good parenting comes in and building that relationship.
Absolutely.
And trust.
Absolutely. And good parenting, meaning that don't think you have to do it on your own.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And sometimes as parents, we carry that burden.
Yes.
These are our children. We have to, and even in foster care, right? And in adoption, they may become embarrassed because they can't get their child. Reach out, call. That's why organizations like Family Roots and others in this city, many resources exist, right? Reach out and ask somebody. There are people who specialize in this.
That's right.
Every day. This is what they do. This is what they're trained to do, and they can help you reach, because we want to catch them before they get to that extreme.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now let's get into, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
She said, thank you, Ms. Harris.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome.
Hey, Bridget.
Yes, you're welcome.
My friends in second grade.
Friends in second grade.
Friends in second grade.
Wonderful.
Yolanda Kelly said, family is our first and most important system.
It absolutely is. Thank you.
It is.
Before you move on.
Yes.
Before you move on. This is very interesting to me.
Okay.
First of all, I have been adopted myself.
Okay, wonderful.
It's a backstory, a long backstory we can get into some other time. But this is very interesting to me because the question that just arose from was that Bridget Lott? The question that just arose was for those who are just now tuning in: when children are taken from their home, how do you get a resistant child to engage in therapy? Now, me personally, I didn't need therapy.
Okay, good.
But sometimes someone who can relate, this is to Ms. Lott too, someone who can relate to the situation can better communicate.
Absolutely. We have to understand that children and adolescents, oftentimes they are working to just naturally become independent of their first authority, which is their parents, right? So sometimes they don't just want to listen to what the parents have to say, for whatever reason. So it's important to have others in your support network who can reach that youth, which is why our mentoring program is so important, right? And I'm a big, proponent of mentoring because sometimes, as parents, we don't always have the right words, we don't always know, how to address the situation. But that mentor, may be able to reach that youth.
Absolutely.
And that youth may not feel comfortable talking to mom and or dad or other family members, but they may feel better talking to someone who's, a support person that they can rely on. So very good point there, that it has to be someone who can connect, someone who can reach that child to get them to understand how important this is.
Because the first thing that they're going to say is you don't know nothing about this life.
Right. Exactly.
You know how the youngsters talk.
Exactly. You're old. You don't know. You don't get it. Times have changed.
Right.
And so,
but someone who's I haven't necessarily lived the foster care life. I was adopted at a very young age, at 18 months, so I know nothing about foster life.
Right.
But I do know something about the streets, and I'm blessed with common sense, street sense, and book sense.
Good.
So when talking to these kids, that some of them are right on the borderline of being hardened and calloused, and some that are not there yet and want to be hardened and calloused, I can relate to them because I was in both spots at one time. So that's my answer to Miss Lott, and just to help you piggyback.
Absolutely, no problem. Absolutely, I agree.
So I've done a few shows on adoption. Not a whole lot about reunification though. So I want you to define, as we get into family relationships, guys, I want you to define what reunification is and how does that process work, and the logistics and the legalities behind that. It's not just, mama got a life together, especially for kids who have been adopted, age out, and want to reunify. So I'll let you speak to that.
Absolutely. So good question, because reunification is something we need to be talking more about. We're talking about not allowing these children to just languish in the system, but rather to help them reunify with their birth family. So reunification is really more of a legal term within the child welfare system, and it refers to a process by which youth who have been removed from their birth family are brought into foster care, hopefully temporarily, and the parents are then given what's called a plan of service to work and to complete, which can involve a whole host of things. It might be drug treatment, it might be established securing safe housing, a whole list of items that they have. Once they have completed that and fulfilled that according to not only CPS but the court's requirements, then we can look at reunifying the youth, right? And that's a whole process, right? There's a whole team, the professional team that's working on that process. It's not only the CPS worker and supervisor, but as I mentioned, the attorney, the judge, the CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate that's helping with that. And it's a whole process by which then the judge orders that the child can be reunified with the family. And depending upon how long the child has been out of the home and how many family visits may or may not have taken place, that process can take, longer or shorter, depending upon those factors. But the idea is that the child can now be reunified with the family because now the risk factors have been mitigated, right? They've been either lessened or eliminated, hopefully altogether, the safety risk factors, that is. And so then the child can be reunified with the family. And ideally, there are some aftercare services that are in to make sure that things are, in fact, safe and stable, and that, the child and will be able to thrive in that family. So that's reunification in a nutshell. And that is something that is always the first mission of CPS when a child is removed. It should always be the first, that the child is reunified with that family.
But speak to the reunification process after a child ages out of the system.
Okay.
And they come to you, Mrs. Kelly Harris.
I get it, hyphenated.
Yeah. I want to find my birth family.
Yeah.
Take it from there.
What's that process like? I will say, as I mentioned earlier, that is the program by which we are still developing, because we want to make sure we're doing this the right way. In that we want to make sure it is a healthy reconnection with the family. And so we're probably only working with about a handful of clients right now in that process. But it is important, right, to really assess that process and, what all is involved in there. Because I've got questions from people. How do you know if it's healthy? How do you know if it's safe? I should say safe, to reunify or really reconnect. Let's talk about reconnection, because technically it's both, legally within child welfare, reunification happens when the child is still in the CPS system in the state system.
Natasha, hold that thought just a minute.
Sure.
Something came to mind.
No problem.
I hope it won't throw you off. But what amazes me is kids who leave the system, maybe not necessarily age out, but they run away, or they, age out. It amazes me how they find their birth family.
They tell me all the time, when we talk to these young adults who've aged out, they say, look, it's what we do anyhow. We go there anyhow. I'm thankful that you're doing this, because it's like, and
it's like, how do you keep up with that? You've been in care for 8 years. How do you know where your birth family is?
Instinctively, okay? Instincts. And obviously the internet and social media has helped with that. And I remember when that came into play, it became an issue of how do we do this as a system? How do we keep children from finding the birth? And the unfortunate part was that the system had an attitude of, we don't want that to happen. Like we have, and again, for good reason, for safety reasons, but you can't break that natural connection. And when you ask me why the name, or how the name, it's because family roots for life. I will continue to say that, it's instinctive. How about somebody break you from your family? Disconnect you from your family that you didn't ask for.
Right.
No one can keep me from my family. Right? That's what that boils down to. So it is incumbent upon us to help that connection. But yes, happens a lot, and so it is something that the system has to carefully monitor, right? Because and what happens, this is to me what helps to even perpetuate the trauma that these children are experiencing, because now they have to hide it, right? From the powers that be, that they're still communicating with, and they long and desire. Let me just tell you a story I'm thinking of, just came to mind. An 8-year-old that years ago, I was an adoption manager, and there was an 8-year-old who was in care, whose parental rights had been terminated. So that's a process too. So now they were to be adopted. And he was in a foster home, and this was in South Texas. And he had been told that he was going to be placed with an adoptive family. And so in between that time of him moving from the foster home to the adoptive family, well, his caseworker changed, his CPS caseworker changed. Unfortunately, that's yet another change that these children unfortunately experience quite often. So in the midst of that caseworker change, the first time this caseworker comes out to visit him at the foster home, let me step back and say the foster home that he was in had been under investigation. And so when that happens, they had to move the children out of the home into another foster home. So in his 8-year-old mind, when he moved from that one home to this home, he was now in his adoptive home, for what he could understand, right? So when that new caseworker came out to visit with him, and unfortunately on the very first visit also take him to his new home on the first visit, unfortunately, there was, he didn't want to go. Not unfortunately, he did not want to go, because he was in the family that he liked and that he understood to be his adopted family. Well, because of her lack of, understanding and I guess newness, in the role or whatever, she felt like she had to force the situation. And unfortunately, said some things to him, such as, if it doesn't work out, then you can come back. Then she also unfortunately made a threat to him if he didn't get in the car, that she would have to call the police. He's 8 years old. And just the idea. And so the placement was forced. So he was forced to get on a plane and actually fly to Houston. The placement was in Houston, and they adopted the family. And so we got called as a result to go out and figure out what's going on, because he was crying. He could not, be calmed or what have you. And so this family, well, of course, was just devastated, because they wanted to adopt him, but they also understood what was happening. So long story short, I had to get on the phone with, CPS in South Texas, and also the foster family who he had been placed with. And when I met with him, this is the key here. When I met with the little boy, 8 years old, and asked him what was going on and how he felt, he was crying and upset. And he literally was saying, "Save me." I promise. He was saying, "Save me, save me." It makes me cry even to this day. This was years ago. But anyhow, I said, what is it that you want? Do you not want to stay here? He said, no, it's not working out. It's not working out, because he had been told if it doesn't work out, he can go back. And so he says, I want to go back home. And I said, well, where is home? What do you want? He said, my mom. And I said, your mom? Okay, who's your mom? And he said, well, not this mom. And he literally pulled out of his pocket a picture of his birth mother. He had been in foster care since he was 4 years old. For 4 years. Yes. He carries this picture of his birth mother, family roots for life, connection can't break, in his pocket, that he's thinking about. He said, I'm not her, because I know I can't go back to her. The police took her, but I want to go back to my so-and-so mom, and I said, okay, and so he said, and her name is so-and-so, and, they were, culturally sensitive to, families, spoke the language, all the everything. And so I said, I'm going to do my very best, to get you back. And we did. Thankfully, we were able to, but it always just reminds me again, just one example of many I have over this 30 years of this little 8-year-old boy had been carrying that picture of his birth mother. And think about what a person has to go through, an 8-year-old child, a boy at that, to carry a picture in its pocket to keep it intact. So he had not forgotten about his birth mother and would not forget about her. So I forgot why I was even telling you all that, but nonetheless,
it fits.
Right, nonetheless, you just can't break that connection. And, the decisions that we make in this system are so important to the ultimate, outcome of what becomes of these children. We have to be mindful of that.
Do we have any questions, Malcolm?
No, just a lot of
Comments.
People that are commenting, and they're loving what's going on here. We have Bridget Lott said, hey, Ned, love you much. When you, I didn't want to interrupt you again, but when you said that's my friend since second grade, she chimed in and said that, hey, Ned, love you
too,
much.
Bridget.
She, Phyllis Earls is
Hey,
tuned in.
Phyllis.
She says, hey, Dr. Annette.
Junior high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What year was that?
Nunya.
Just a few short years ago.
Okay.
We have Victoria Williams. She's always with us. She says, good evening, everyone. Victoria Williams also says, great show, Dr. Annette.
Thank you.
And Victoria Williams also says, I really wish with praying hands, she says, I really wish they would do a deeper screen during the hiring process. And then Bridget Lott is laughing at us. And Yolanda Kelly, I'm not sure what she's saying, but she has prayer hands and trees. So I guess
Family Roots for Life.
Family
That's
Roots.
our logo.
That's your logo. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to take just a couple of minutes here. We do have a couple of giveaways tonight. We have something from South Shore Harbor Resort. And I'm not exactly sure what you call these. What do you call these?
Koozies, right?
Koozies?
Right? Isn't that a koozie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we have koozies. We have a mug, 2024 pocket calendar, paper clip that it has a magnet on it. You can hang it on your refrigerator, and a mouse pad.
Yay.
That's courtesy of South Shore Harbor Resort to the first caller. And there's also a mystery gift that comes with this.
Ooh.
But you have to call in, and I won't tell you what the mystery gift is. All right. So to the first caller, you're all right. Welcome to the Wisdom Walk. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking to? Hello.
This is B. Lot.
Hey, Bridget, turn your I guess your phone down, or we're getting the volume. We're getting some feedback.
Turn your I guess your phone down, or oh yeah, let me turn it down.
Okay.
Bless you.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. All right. I got you covered. And there's a mystery gift that I will give to you that comes with this. You're going to enjoy it.
All right. Yay. Thank you.
All right. All right. Love you.
Love you too. Love everybody on the board there.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Stick around, guys. We have another giveaway that will be coming up shortly, and it also comes with a mystery gift. So, not now, later, when you hear me ask for the first caller, we have another calendar courtesy of South Shore Harbor Resort. We have a coolie, what is it, koozie?
Koozie, I believe.
Yeah, and these were donated by the Veterans Police Officers of Fort Bend. Lanyard, magnet, keychain, just some nice goodies, okay? And I will let you know when to call in. Malcolm, were you going to say something?
No, Miss D. Rochelle, your right hand is on here. She's giving you a pink wavy hand.
Hey, D.
And Denny Norwood on YouTube says great show.
Oh, good.
That's all I have for right now.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you. Okay, so now
reunification, I think, is what we have been talking about. A reconnection is what.
Yeah. So we're talking about really a lot of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feed into relationships?
Oh my gosh.
And I mean just across the board. How does that feed into relationships?
It does so much, Annette. It really does. And it's one of those situations where or topics that we just don't talk about enough, just like mental health, and it's all, tied into one another. Trauma happens all the time, unfortunately, and in many different systems. And not everybody who's in foster care experienced, trauma to the same extent.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many people who were never in foster care who experienced trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so trauma is a topic that we absolutely must talk about because it impacts us all in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is trauma can happen in many different ways. It can be to some type of abuse, neglect that's happened, can be to some sort of what we call the SCIL, adverse childhood experience, ACEs for short. It could be, families that have experienced significant hardships, whether it's poverty, harsh lifestyles. It could be, a divorce, a very bad divorce that happened and the parents were not able to reconcile, even a co-parent. It can happen in a number of different ways, right? A parent, unfortunately, being murdered, something very significant, or incarcerated, or what have you. Trauma happens, in so many different forms. And when it is unprocessed, right? That's how it impacts us in relationships.
Yes.
Unprocessed trauma can significantly impact us in relationships.
Because I don't know how to function, nor have I had the modeling of what that looks like. And so you mentioned this the other day when we were talking. I know I'm jumping ahead.
Okay.
I don't even remember anything about Teen Violence Month or teen domestic violence. That's something new on the scenes. Now, I'm not saying it never happened.
Right.
But
now we have a name for it.
Now we have a name for
because
it.
It's something that is happening. It's been made aware that we need to. And so you're right. This month happens to be Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, and we have to be aware of it, right? I can talk about this for days, not just because of teen dating violence, but also teen dating, right?
And
parents often don't like to talk about it, don't like to even think about the fact, but it is normal. It's natural for teens to, be attracted to others in the opposite sex, even and to date, right? It's very natural and normal to happen. And so as parents and as adults, we have to do better about talking to them about what that looks like and what's healthy in that. And also, making sure that whoever they're dating is appropriate and is safe, as well. So yes, teen dating violence is an issue. The statistics even show that, up to 70% of youth who are dating are, by the age of 15, I should say that. I think it's 71%, not teen violence, this part. This is just the dating. So this is why we have to talk about it, right? So the statistics show that 71% of teens by the age of 15 are in dating relationships. So that's more than half the number, right? And then of that number, unfortunately, 1 in 3 teens have experienced some type of dating abuse. So 1 in 3, so a third of that number. And then the statistics go even further to show that teen girls are 10 times more likely to have experienced it, but a third of them won't even report it, right? So because of those statistics, we have to bring some light to it, and we have to talk about it, and we have to educate parents, and we have to educate teens on it.
Yes.
Very, very important.
Before y'all get into this,
Yeah.
I have a story.
Sure.
Okay.
Relating to this. I wasn't told about it until after, because they know I was not going to act appropriate.
Okay.
So they held the information from me. But at the time, my now 22-year-old daughter was 19,
Okay.
maybe 20. And this is just a couple years ago. And she had met this nice young fellow. and he presented himself as an angel. He worked. He doted after my daughter, and nobody had any concerns. So he comes to us and he says, "Hey, I want to move back home." He's from Colorado, and me and her mom are no longer together. We divorced. We looked at each other and we had a little conference, and we were like, well, she's graduated and she can make her own decision. So that's what we came up with. Like I said, he wasn't a bad guy. If he was a bad guy, we would have said, oh, no,
Right.
that's not
Of
happening.
course.
But he presented himself well. And anyway, long story short, they end up in Colorado about 3 months later. I'm telling you what I heard after, because they didn't want me involved for obvious reasons. My attitude wouldn't have handled it.
Right.
So 3 months later, he rears his ugly head and he starts beating her. He starts. I can't get my words together, but he was keeping her against her will,
Isolating her.
isolating her. You can't leave without my permission, and so she ended up, running. She's pretty fast, got some long legs,
Good for her.
and outran him and called her mom and was hysterical. Come get me. He's lost his mind. I don't know what's going on. And they tell me after the fact, and I still lost it. I'm like, yo, where is he?
Right.
Where's he at? So that's just my story on the teen
Dating violence. Yeah.
That caught my attention too. I
Right.
did my little homework on your page.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, I needed her a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I self-diagnosed because I have a little history with psychology and sociology myself, and I self-diagnosed. But and okay, as long as I don't see him, I'm good.
Right.
I took that kind of approach. But back then, I was just like, I need somebody to track him down for me.
Yeah, I understand.
But that was the situation.
Right.
Yeah. And when we talk about family relationships and building families, I grew up in an old school family. And so anybody that came to my door talking about, Mr. Johnson, I want to date your daughter, they got the door slammed in their face, period. Okay? Back then, I thought my dad was being so mean.
You're right.
I was 18 and he was in college.
Wow.
Daddy, I want to go to the movies. And he's like, no, you can't go if it's after 8:30. I said, Daddy, the movies doesn't start till 9. You're not going. Or Daddy, a couple of friends from college, we want to go wherever we're going. Do I know them? No, you don't know them. You're not going. And so I was like, good night. But here's the deal. When we're talking about family, we've lost that protective factor. We've lost that piece of, again, protection.
Exactly. You're right. Especially when we're talking.
Our parents, keep your thought, please. Our parents used to say, can I go spend the night? Have I met their parents?
Yeah.
Have I met their parents? I haven't met their parents. No, you can't go. That kind of thing. So
absolutely. And so, there's so much to that, because when we talk about family culture, we talk about societal changes, where we are in the world of things. We know that, number one, talking about family and the brokenness, the divorce rate is very high, in our society for a lot of different reasons. And we do have to do better, about that and preparing people for relationships. And let me just say this, like, nobody is perfect. Right? No individual person is perfect. No relationship is perfect, no matter how long they've been together. Right? And I have to say that because I feel like people probably think, okay, you're okay because you've been in this relationship. No. We've had to work at it just like everybody does. Right? But we have to do better about educating our youth as they're going into a relationship with other people so that they can, just be aware of the signs and the factors, that can be there, even themselves, right? Getting to know themselves.
That's it.
Yeah. And then again, back to family culture, families, are different, these days and what, they had been. And so the protective factor in the sense that family units are not as tight as they used to be, with the mobility of people these days, moving from one place to another. Our communities are not as tight knit as they used to be as well. So we are, as a society, more, mobile in the sense that we don't really live in the communities that we grew up in as maybe our parents and grandparents did. So when we move about throughout the city, across the country, out of the country, whatever, we're not in the same tight-knit community that we once were. So that even was a safety net, right? And a protective factor, because even if your parent wasn't at home, maybe a neighbor who was, was checking on the children. Latchkey kids happened in the 80s, more. And then children raising themselves or being raised by the internet. It's all these different factors to where our family systems are not what they used to be. And so that means as parents, we have to be way much more mindful about that and stay on top of what's happening with our children and the influences that they're receiving from other people, from the internet, from social media, from television that stays on 24/7, everything, So parenting these days is, requires a lot. You really have to stay on, and you really have to rely on your support systems. You really have to have a support system and other people, because also, let me just mention this about age, right? So we consider ourselves to be older parents, right? And that I was 32 when I had my child, whereas, that can be considered older in the sense that means we're further away from what things are happening, what's happening and what's in the in and what's in the know. Now, people never change. People are who they are, but you now have devices and things like that, and internet and things like that you have to keep up with to stay on top of parenting. And so you have to rely on others within the family or within your circle that can help you relate to your children.
But Natasha, we're in this place though. My grandmother was 50 some odd years older than me. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And there are that many years between me and my granddaughter.
Yes.
But now we have a situation where grandmamas are in their 30s.
And that's been happening for a little bit now too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they got their own daddy issues and relationship issues and all of that stuff, right? And it passes on to the children. And I'll put a pin there. So what I see in my practice is young children, I'm going to say fresh out of the womb, 2 and 3 years old, whose parents are going through divorce.
Wow.
And bringing them in because, technically they just can't get on board.
Yeah.
And they need help. No, you do. Because your ink, if you have even reached the point of having your decree signed, your ink is not even dry.
Exactly.
Or you just separated and me and my fiance. What?
You're right. Yeah. Just relationship hopping, from one to the next. And that's not healthy. It can't be healthy,
And what I have said to some parents, you are doing this because you don't want to feel the pain. You don't want to feel empty. But sometimes emptiness and pain can be good.
You have to go through it.
Yes.
Right?
If you're focusing on yourself, doing some introspection, trying to figure out, what role did I play in this?
Absolutely.
And what needs to be
fixed? What do I need to do differently? What approach do I now need to take? Because I have to look at myself to say, what is it that I'm doing or not doing, in this? And it's taking responsibility for yourself, right? Being accountable for what you bring or don't bring to the relationship. In relationships, let me just say this, everybody, it's hard. It can really be hard. Relationships can really be hard. And what I mean, really intimate relationships, marital relationships can be really hard, and especially in this day and age, we've got so many influences, right, that we never had before, and that is a big part of the issue, right?
It is.
We have connections with people that we never would have had connections with. That's even what we're doing right now, live, like this. We never would have had connections with the classmates that we have, relationships with now, that we have connections to, and that the people that were of our past. Once you moved on, you moved on. There was no way to stay connected. It used to cost for long distance calls, So that prevented us from maintaining. But now we have all these influences around us, constantly bombarding us, and us being all of us, the children, the adolescents, the adults, at every level. So we have to do a better job about keeping that at bay, right? And not letting it influence us and infiltrate our thinking and, who we are, and feeling like we can just, end this one today and start another one tomorrow. Because you are impacting somebody when you're doing that. Yourself, the other person, and if there's children involved as well. Because we're constantly looking. Children live what they learn, and they learn what they live, right? If that's what they see, then that's what they're going to do, inevitably, unless they see something different.
That's right. That's right. And parents, I'm imploring you to not be so busy.
Yes.
I'm imploring you to spend more time, even with your adult children,
Mhm.
because our adult children are making decisions on the fly, and those decisions are very costly.
Yes.
And I see this too. So you spend all this money on this lavish wedding, and 2 years later, you back at mama's house with your two babies or whatever. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that some things don't happen. Okay,
Right,
things
right.
happen. But didn't you know he was a gaslighter before you got with him?
Mhm.
Didn't you know that he was abusive? So that says that you were looking for something, or you were trying to change this person, or hoping that this person would change just because you said I do. And then what happens? Well, I can get out of it. So
Right.
then you're out of it, and then you bring the children into therapy, and
Right.
then, well, we're done. I'm just waiting for my paperwork to be signed,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to go ahead and get with somebody else. There's something wrong, people.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that to be ugly. I want you to really think about where you are in your life and the decisions that you're making, because it's impacting our children. And as Natasha said earlier, this is the next generation.
Mhm.
We've lost a few generations.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Family doesn't look like family
It
anymore.
doesn't. It doesn't.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's a me, my, I situation. And if we cannot continue at this rate
We cannot.
and
Right.
expect to yield, I guess, good fruits. I see
Yeah.
Malcolm's hand going up
No,
over here.
exactly.
No. I was trying to find I found it earlier, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to find it again. I lost it on our website where I wanted to post it. The teen part.
Oh yes,
Okay.
it's the it pops up when you first log on to the site. Let me just say this, Annette. You mentioned the ink not being dry, on the marriage license yet, and already out of one into the next. We've lost this sense of commitment. Okay, we forget the big C word, commitment. And also, one of the things that my husband and I said earlier on, when we would, the first few years were just, tough. It's always, it can always be tough, but the first few years really were. And I remember thinking to myself, I didn't get married to get divorced. And so I would have to often say that I didn't get married to get divorced, right? You have to make up your mind. Are you in this or not?
Right.
And commitment is huge. And
It is.
I'm not putting anyone down who's made the decision to do so. I do realize that there's many reasons, and some people get in there and realize, this was not the right thing. So I better, get out while I can. But that's okay. But let's not continue to make the same, issue, because you have to know who you are. You have to know who that person is, which means you have to get to know who that person
And
is.
stop overlooking the flags.
Yeah, the red flags are there.
Yeah, they're there. Stop overlooking.
Just had this conversation recently, and it's funny, you bring these people in here and they hit home. But though this goes out to the listening audience, those of you who are considering marriage, and I'm just piggybacking off the conversation, and you're seeing the red flags, as the doctor's already mentioned. Why would you take that into a marriage?
You're right.
That's my question to y'all. Call in, tell me,
Right.
because there's plenty of people out there. They see the red flags. I know one lady in particular. She saw the red flags. The gentleman's mother even told her, "Don't marry my son. He's been married 5 or 6 times already, and he's done this same mistake over and over again." This was his own mother. She still married the man. Why? Because he was financially able.
Yeah.
He was financially sound.
Mm-hmm.
He made 6 figures.
Mm-hmm.
He gave her the white picket fence around the house, the 4 or 5 bedroom home for her children. She stayed.
Yeah.
As you mentioned a few minutes ago, they did not stay married 18 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
He was cheating 3 years
Yeah.
during the engagement.
Wow.
Said he would change.
Yeah.
Got married. And that 4th, 5th year, the marriage fell apart.
Wow.
And here's the thing: where is the incentive to change?
Right. If you got what you want.
Exactly. So if you know that you're the woman or the man, whomever, they're doing some shady stuff, and you still commit, then you get what you get.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
You get what you
Basically.
get.
And you have to make a decision to live with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because why go through all of that? Because it's really turmoil to have to go through that whole process and then undo it, and then especially when children are involved as well.
Yes.
We cannot forget about that. They see everything. They know whether we want them to know or not. They get it, they understand it, it impacts them. So it's incumbent upon us to do better to make better decisions. We have to do our homework, right? And we have to be honest with ourselves. That's another thing. We're not always honest. And unfortunately, again, so much is glamorized in our society, right? Weddings are glamorized more than marriages. Weddings are glamorized. What is it now? They have the gender reveals are glamorized.
Yeah.
The baby showers are glamorized.
The 5 baby mamas like this one rapper has.
Exactly. Like everything is glamorized because now we can all be a star.
Yes.
On social media, like the celebrities, right? And this is real life.
This is real
life.
life.
What I really want to implore and for people to understand that this is real life. We're dealing with real people, real hearts and minds that's impacted by this, right? Children's hearts and minds that are growing up in this. And I say children, but there are a lot of adults who unfortunately grew up like this too. And that's why they are where they are. So they need to make better decisions. Now that you are an adult, you have to make better decisions because you're now impacting somebody else. And we have to remember whether we want to be role models or not, somebody's always looking to us and looking at what we're doing.
That's the key.
Yeah. So we have to be mindful of that. We're impacting somebody else's life, whether we like it or not. They're watching, they're listening. The young people, and we say the children, but it's even the young people.
Yes.
Like we're the age that we are, but it's the people right under us, those 10 and 20 years younger than us that they're watching too.
Yeah.
Because we all have to look up to somebody, as to what it is we want to aspire to do or to be. We have to have good, positive, healthy role models. And it's natural to do that. And so it's happening. And so the decisions you're making, somebody's watching.
Yeah, they're watching. That's what. And we as parents cannot be afraid to say that Nick Cannon's situation with 5 baby mamas and 12 or 13 children, that's not okay.
Right.
We have to be the bad guys sometimes and say, and I don't care if you feel like they're not listening, our job is still to tell them what is right.
It's values, right? Yeah. Think about what your values are. What values do you have that you're imparting to your children? What values do you have that you live by, that you stand by? There's a saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
That's right.
And we're falling a lot because we're not standing for enough.
I gotta ask.
Yeah.
Values.
Yes.
Now, I was raised in a 2-parent home that used to say what I'm about to say all the time. So I would like to ask both of you and the listening audience this question.
Yeah.
What do you say to the parents? And I love them. You already know my dad passed away 2 years ago. My mom's still here with me. And Mom, if you're listening to me, don't have no belt ready. What do you say to parents? Because we still have some today that say, I might curse, I might do this and that, but you do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
That's what Dad used to tell me. Now he wasn't a potty mouth,
right?
But when he got angry, he was an ordained minister,
right?
So when he got angry, it did come out sometimes.
Right.
He wasn't a boozer. He quit that when he got into the pulpit. But some things he would do, and I'd be like, little smart mouth. Well, Dad, you did it. Well, you don't do as I say, not as I do. What do you?
But you know what? A lot of what we do is passed down, right? Some of those things that we say, I heard the same thing. Children are meant to be seen, not heard. That we have, in society, we have, change in terms of the messages that were passed down to us. But we have more knowledge and awareness now, right? So when that comment is made, we have to be mindful of what that really means. And again, we didn't have all this, just like we didn't have Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, we didn't have all this child education and child development and all the psychology, information that was out there then as there is now. Now that we have it, we have to use it, right? Which means that even though that was a saying that our parents and grandparents said to us, we know better, right? There's more education out there. Many of us are way more educated now. If you're not, it's okay. It's easy to open up a book, read an article or something about it. It's not, sometimes we just say things just because we've heard it. Do as I say, not as I do. But when you really think about it, and when you understand child development, and like I just said, children live what they learn. That's why many of us do what we do, because it's what was done when we were growing up, and we need to break those habits if they're not healthy for us. And so it's an education issue, right? So when you realize that children are paying attention, they get it, they understand it. They understand at a much younger age than what we want to believe. They really, really do. They are paying attention. Okay. And so what we do in front of them really does matter.
It does.
What we say to them, just like we know the messages that we send to them, whether they're positive or not, they internalize. And so what you're doing in front of them, they're internalizing that also.
That's right.
There's a lot of things that happens that's unspoken, too, that we just never even talk about. Just like even not want to talk about teen dating. As a parent, you want to, shy away from that. Okay, well, you can not talk about it, but it's not to say that it's not happening.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And so it's happening. And if you want to have any kind of influence in there, you want to say something, about it. But yeah, that comment is just really just more of a lack of education and understanding that children really know what's going on.
And the work needs to be done on the front end. As you said, talking to our children about what a healthy relationship looks like. Don't wait until your daughter comes to you with a black eye and then get enraged and where is it? We're going to have them arrested. Exactly. That's still not fixing what is going on inside of her.
Right.
That's still not addressing her self-esteem issues. It's not addressing the trauma. So if we put these things in on the front end, and I have to just go to the Bible, Deuteronomy 6, where it talks about you teach your children when you get up in the morning, as you go throughout the day, when you go to bed at night. If we would teach them like that, we wouldn't have these problems.
Absolutely. And even just the comment that you made about not waiting until it gets to that point, a black eye, and talking to them. What it also means is that you have to open up about what it is inside of yourself that maybe even taught her that it was okay to do that, to be in that kind of relationship, and or what's going on inside of you that where you didn't even want to talk to her about it in the first place. So again, it's accountability on the part of parents, right? Parenting is the most, I don't know, job, but it takes a lot of work, just like relationships do. Parenting and marriage together are the two, hardest jobs in the world. It takes a lot of you. But if you make the decision to do it, to be a parent and to have these children, it's your responsibility and yours more than anybody's to help raise them and raise them the right way, which means you being healthy enough to do that and to know.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
We have 3 or 4 comments that came in.
Okay.
Miss Ruby Scott says, I appreciate that you are continuing this discussion to help children.
Thank you.
Camille McFadden-Kell just came in and said, nope. She said that right after I gave y'all the story about my daughter going to Colorado. And I think she was just saying, nope, that wouldn't have happened.
Exactly.
Bridget Lott says, yes, spend time with your kids, no matter if they're grown. One of you said this. Spend time with your kids, no matter if they're grown adults. We're family. Family is important. Photo Video Nation said great messages, and that's all I have. I want to encourage the listening audience. You are more than welcome to call in tonight. The call-in number is 832-560-2885. It's on the screen right there. If any of this is hitting home like it is with me, you're more than welcome to call in with your thoughts. Back to the show.
Okay. All right. We're getting there.
It's a lot to cover.
Yeah. So what are the implications of failed relationships on families? We've talked about it, but what about society? When we have, we have dysfunctional families, I guess dysfunctional personalities. What is the impact on or to society?
Well, we know that family is the most basic institution that we have in society. And if our families are unhealthy and dysfunctional and broken, then unfortunately our society is going to mirror that. And what does our society look like these days? It's not as healthy as what it should be and what it needs to be and what we know is necessary in order to raise, healthy children and to be able to function well. We've gotten ourselves into this place of anything goes, glamorizing, sometimes all the wrong things. And it's not bad, to share pictures of your nice wedding, but we forget about the marriage part.
That's right. That's right. We
and
get
the commitment.
so caught up in all of the hoopla that we forget that not only are we making a commitment to one another, but we're making a commitment to God.
Yes, for those of us who believe, and if we say we believe, what does that really mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Right. So those are the implications in that if we don't take care of our children, there's a saying in Swahili that, and I forget it's a Swahili saying, but essentially it's when they greet each other in that culture, they ask, how are the children doing? When they greet each other, because they know that if our children are well, then our society is well. I forget the saying. I wish I had, memorized it again for this, but that's how they greet each other. Just anybody on the street. How are the children doing? Because they know if your children are well, then your society is well.
Absolutely.
If our children are not well, and we know our children are struggling, our children are struggling, and we don't want to admit that.
That's right.
And really talk about it, but and because we have to take some ownership for it, right?
Absolutely, yes.
For what we have done and not done, and it goes back to even, and it's a hard fight, right? We do have a hard fight against everything that's going on, but as individuals, as family systems, we have to have those values and hold tight to those values. Okay. And it may mean that we're the odd man out, because of it, but that's okay. As long as we are intact and at the core, standing for what we know is right, then we have to do that. Our children deserve it.
That's right.
Our children absolutely deserve it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about the implications of failed relationships on future generations?
Same thing, I mean, some of what we're talking about, what we were, taught as children, what our parents taught us, what our grandparents taught us, and we are who we are because of that, whether it was values, whether it was our faith, whether it was making healthy decisions in parenting or in our marriages or whatever. We naturally, you're going to impact the generation under you. I talked about not just the children looking up to you, but even those just under you, however old you are, if you're in your 50s, 60s, whatever, you've got 40s and 30-year-olds looking up to you, and maybe they're not looking up to everything that you are, but maybe it's just that relationship. Maybe it's your, what you've achieved, professionally. You were able to gain your education. They want to know how to be able to do that also. So we have to understand that, in terms of relationships and family, we're not in this world by ourselves.
That's right.
Right.
That's
we're all interdependent upon one another. Right. What we do impacts the other. In fact, this just makes me think of something earlier in marriage. Just to tell my husband, I said, whatever we decide to do individually, it's always going to have an impact on the other person, directly or indirectly. So we have to realize that, we can, be married and act solo if we want to, but just know that whatever we choose to do, it's going to impact the other person one way or another. That's right. And that's in marriage, but it's also just, in family and society, we all impact each other. That's right. And so it is our responsibility, again, as the adults, as the mature adults, even to set those standards. And it's okay to have standards and to impart the values to our children, because that's what helps to keep the next generation healthy. If our children have nowhere to look, no hope, then what do they have to look forward to?
And I have a choice in that relationship. I can choose to, if I'm not, get healthy. I can choose. My mom used to always say, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. I can choose to bridle my tongue and take the low road.
Take the high road, really, by bridling your tongue. Right?
Absolutely. I like that.
Right. Absolutely. It's one way of looking at it.
Yeah, that is. But everybody can't be on 10.
Exactly.
Everybody wants to win.
Yeah, and it's not about winning.
It's not about winning.
Because we're a team.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
And if one loses, we both lose.
That's right. That's right.
Same with the family. Same with the community. Same with society. And that's the part that we don't want to think of, because we've got so much divisiveness, going on. But we're all in this together. Yeah. Right. And if part of us loses, then that's a part of who we are. Right. So we all want to win. So we all have to make those decisions.
Did you have something that you wanted to add, Malcolm?
No, she's just hitting every point that needs to be made. I'm just, it's resonating.
Okay. All right. So why don't I just do a quick giveaway? We have this koozie, again, donated by the veteran police officers of Fort Bend. We have a 2024 pocket calendar. I don't even know if people are still carrying these or not, but magnets from the Veterans Police, and some other nice little trinkets, a lanyard to the next caller. And there is a mystery gift that comes along with this. So to the next caller, sir.
I have tagged them, but Facebook just grounded me. I can't tag them again.
Oh, wow.
I tagged them right here on my Facebook page and told them, thank you for their giveaway right here. Giveaway on tonight's Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette show by Relentless Defender Foundation. And I'll put the information on the screen anyway for our listening audience. I do have a couple more comments, but thank you so much. Wisdom, Relentless Defender Foundation for your donation. This is in Richmond, Texas. The call-in number, the first caller wins all of this in this corner right here. A koozie.
Hey, Glenda.
A koozie, some kind of calendar, a lanyard. First caller wins. This is the Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette show. I do have a couple comments. D. Rochelle says, great show. Great show tonight. I wasn't able to comment at first because I accidentally messed up my setting. But that's your right hand. She's with you. She's letting you know it.
All right.
Miss Glenda Smith. I don't know what it is with these pink hands tonight, but she's putting a pink wavy sign up. Glenda Smith is tuned in on YouTube. And then last but not least, we have Bridget Lott still hanging with us. I'm sorry, I skipped a comment. Bridget Lott says, y'all better call before I do. First caller. Bridget Lott is going to win again if y'all don't call.
If they don't call, I'll just give it to Bridget.
Glenda Smith is on YouTube as well. Says, that's right. And Annette, hold on. Excuse me. That's right, Annette. Hold that tongue. Say nice all the time.
All right.
So first caller, tell them one more time what they win, Dr. Annette.
They get the koozie, some kind of arm band, keychain, silver, I guess, memorabilia, coin, magnet, and a calendar. And I think I said the lanyard.
A lanyard.
Okay. Yeah.
And once again, these winnings are from Relentless Defender Foundation. You can find out more about this organization at their website right below here on the screen, everybody, right below your nose, relentlessdefender.org. They're located in Richmond, Texas. What exactly do they do for the community, Doctor? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know all of the details. I just know that it's a bunch of veterans that get together, and I think that they were formerly either in the police academy or police officers or police in the military.
Our mission is to assist first responders and their families nationwide.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. Great.
So that's who's giving the giveaway tonight. If you're wanting to win, one of them.
Yeah.
The other one has already been won.
Yeah, that was from South Shore Harbor Resort.
South Shore Harbor Resort. So first caller wins the giveaway from Relentless Defender Foundation, and you better hurry up, or Miss Bridget Lott is going to be calling in, winning again. She already won. She already won again. She's encouraging people to call. Call, Glenda. Call, Glenda. I can't call. Scared I will lose the live chat.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Glenda. All you got to do is go to Facebook, Instagram, or Facebook, and go to Real Talk 100 Radio to find the live feed again. Go to Real Talk 100 Radio first of all, and then go to YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram to find it again. Call in and win this. Come on. Or Glenda's going to. I mean, Bridget.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. So we're getting close, guys. What are some suggestions that you have for rebuilding families and relationships?
Yeah. So, honestly, it would be similar to that, what you do to build a relationship. It really is awareness, self-awareness first. We have a tendency when we think about relationship is always thinking about the other person first, who it is I want to be with or be in relationship with. But think about yourself first, think about, be selfish in that sense of being aware of who you are, being aware of your likes, your dislikes, being aware of what your values are, what standards you have. And also being, realizing that when you are in relationship with someone else, that they're not always going to live up to your standards also. Because there's also another saying too, it's actually an African saying that says, before marriage, keep both eyes open. After you get married, close one eye, right? That's what keeps the commitment. You can't be, beating down the person for who they are, but you have to have done your work beforehand to know, what it is you will tolerate and not tolerate. And it takes time to, let me just say this too, there are a lot of people who want to rush into relationships, and you cannot rush a relationship.
What did Elvis say about rushing in?
What did he say about rushing in?
Fools rush in.
Right.
Fools rush
Approach
in.
with caution.
Yes.
Yes.
Approach with
Yes.
caution. You know,
Yes.
relationships take time.
Yes.
You know, we also are not fully developed. And I've thought about this as I was preparing for this, you know, even as young people, and you may know this, Annette, about brains being fully developed, you know, females' brains tend to develop earlier, right? So tend to mature, but boys, it takes a little bit longer, and well into their 20s. Yeah, well into their mid-20s before their brains are fully developed.
That's right.
Which means that they don't even have the full capacity yet to make all these decisions, and much less be with somebody else, and then now before you know it, have a child on the way.
Exactly,
You know,
exactly.
so you have to fully develop, fully understand who you are and how you identify before you get in relationship with someone else. And then when you get there, it really takes a lot of patience, you know, patience with yourself, patience with the other person. And then if you're in it for life, right?
Yeah,
if you're in this for long term, you have to understand what commitment really means, right? And what goes along with that: patience, forgiveness, and faith. You know, I would just say faith.
That's
you know,
right.
that's huge for me. That's huge for, you know, us and who we are. We have to rely on somebody besides just us.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
too.
Yes.
So that is what's, you know, I can say what's helped me and what I would impart, the wisdom I would impart to others. Be patient with yourself, be patient with your partner, and be forgiving, right? We don't always want to forgive. We want to hold that grudge. Somebody did this to me and they knew they knew that hurt me or what have you. My husband and I have been together for 41 years this month, as I mentioned, married 24, and we've gone through and all around, right? But that's part of it.
Yeah.
Commitment.
All right, this is the Wisdom Walk. Is that Glenda?
Yes, it is. Don't make it out of me. Y'all stop it. Y'all stop it. Did I beat Bridget? Did I beat her?
You beat her.
Okay, good.
You beat her.
Okay.
All right, I'll hold it for you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you. Okay.
Glenda and I went to high school together.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yes.
All right. Talk to
Okay.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
So yeah, so just going back to that building and rebuilding it, it just really, you know, patience, commitment first, getting to know yourself first, you know, the awareness, patience, forgiveness, and faith. And then I want to say I have these 3 P's that any relationship really is just important, right?
I'm sorry.
What's funny? What's funny?
What is going on?
Yeah, I let you win.
Bridget, you are a mess. Oh my goodness. Yes, look, I believe you did
she
too.
was being patient.
I believe
She really
you did,
was.
Bridget.
She was being patient.
Oh
Right.
goodness. I didn't know what Malcolm was laughing at. And don't be looking at nobody else's relationship. Talk about
that is so true, That is so true. We have a tendency to want to look at what over our shoulder and over here and see what the other person is doing. Right.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about what's going on over there. You know, even the best of us who think, you know, it's your friend, they look like they have it all together. They've got this, they've got that. No one knows what's going on behind closed doors. No one knows, you know, what's really happening.
That's right.
You know, and that's not to say that anything bad's happening, but you don't know what it took to even get there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go through a lot just to get to there. And so, you know, that's why I made the comment. No one is perfect, right? No one individual is, no couple is, no family, any of that. Don't look at somebody think that they're perfect and you want what they have. Want what God has for you.
Ooh, come on now.
Piggybacking right quick. What do you
Yeah.
say to those? This is a pet peeve of mine. What do you say to those single people who are perpetually single, not just currently single, perpetually single? They're always the ones that want to give all the advice to people who are in relationships, committed relationships, or marriages. What do you say?
You know what I would say to that? I'm not probably going to answer the way that you think I would, because you know what? Maybe they're single. It depends. When you say perpetually single, now it depends on what they're single for. Like, were they in a relationship, and you know, were they in multiple relationships? Is that what you're talking about? Somebody who's been in multiple that have failed, multiple failed relationships, right? Then of course, no.
It never works out. But they're the experts all the time, and I'm just like.
The only thing about that you might take is that they may know what not to do if they're going to be honest, right? If they're honest about who they are and what they've not done, then you might want to listen, you know, to that. But obviously, if they've had, you know, multiple failed relationships, then they're probably not the wisest, you know, person in that. No. But hopefully they've learned. Right?
No, I love those that hey, don't
do what I did.
Do what I did. Right. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the ones who, you know, if you're having problems, oh, girl, or man, if that was me, no, I don't want to hear about you. You've
Right.
had 8 failed marriages.
Exactly.
I don't,
Yeah,
I don't want to talk to you.
no. Right.
You know,
Right.
those are the
Do
people.
some
I'm
work. Do your
Yeah.
work. Right.
Right.
I would say to them, you need to do some work.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And it's also for those who really need the wisdom and understanding. Be careful who you do listen to.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Because sometimes we want to listen to the wrong people,
Mhm,
right? And we're getting
mhm.
our messages and influences from all different places that are
Mhm.
not the best.
That's right.
Right. That are
That's
not the
right.
healthiest for us.
Mhm,
Bridget Light says, "Love you, Glenda, classmate."
mhm.
Glenda says, "Okay, thank you for Relentless." The
Mhm.
donation
yes.
from Relentless.
Mhm.
Glenda also says, "Thank you," with a high five. Thank you, Bridget. And we've already read the yeah. I'll let you win.
Okay.
All right. So we talked about this being Teen Dating Violence Month, and you did provide some statistics.
Mhm.
Do you think that this is something that is readily reported or underreported?
It's probably underreported.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why-
I think it's probably underreported not only with teens but adults also.
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah.
embarrassing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because no one wants to feel as though they failed, and especially if they're with somebody who others advised them against.
Yeah.
Or especially if they were aware of those red flags and they made the
Mhm.
decision anyhow, then there's this feeling of, gosh, I knew better.
Mhm.
And people who loved me told me, so I'm probably not going to say anything. And it's
Mhm.
maybe those who, want the perfect life and they don't want to, unveil the fact that there are some issues going on. And so unfortunately it continues, until something, devastating happens. But I would say very strongly that it's underreported. It's very likely underreported. Yeah, because it takes a lot to
Yeah.
admit that, right? And
Yeah.
to put yourself in that light and to bring it to the attention of somebody.
So that ties into the next question about why this keeps happening, because of the embarrassment,
Underreported.
the shame
Mhm.
and everything else that goes along with
Right.
that. So,
And let me say this too.
mhm.
I don't think that we're always asking the questions as we should be
Mm.
as adults or as friends or family members, like, how are you
Yeah,
doing? How are
yeah.
things going?
Mhm.
Because we just look at what the outside is.
Yeah.
We don't delve deeper and ask, is everything okay?
Mhm.
And we don't have to expect that something is wrong.
Right.
But we just have to know, here's the thing, we have to know that, like I said from the beginning, relationships are tough.
Yes. We have to know our children.
Right.
We have to know our family members.
Absolutely.
I can always tell when something is going on with mine. I'm like, are you sure?
Right.
What's going on? They may
Exactly.
not say it,
Right.
but they know I'm asking, and they know that I know
Absolutely.
them.
And so what we can do as parents,
Yeah.
even if they may not want to share it with us, is make sure
Mhm.
there's somebody in their life that they
Absolutely.
will share it with.
Yeah,
right?
sounding
Make
board.
sure they have a good support system around
Yeah.
them and encourage them to have them, because we can't make it for them, but
Mhm.
we can encourage them to have a good, we can, encourage them to have a mentor and to talk to, so-and-so,
Mhm.
because that's important. Maybe
Yeah,
they don't
yeah.
feel comfortable talking to you for whatever reason. That's okay. And that's pretty
Mhm.
normal,
Mhm.
too. Very rarely do you have these relationships where there's children and parents, and it happens,
Mhm.
it does happen, but I don't want for anybody to feel bad that it's not happening in their situation if their children are not talking to them, and make sure they have somebody who they can talk to.
Mhm.
And again, we're saying child, but we're talking about adolescents, we're talking about young adults,
Mhm.
we're talking about the people in your circle, family, friends, or whomever that are in these dating relationships that are dating, asking them the real questions. How's it going?
Yeah.
How's
Yeah.
everything? Is everything
Yeah.
really okay? And just
Yeah.
know you can always talk to me if you need to. Just
And-
leave it with that.
And tying into that, being apt to listen.
Yes, and not judge.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because I know as a parent, there are some things that will make you, what do you know?
Exactly, because we want to be protective.
Exactly,
Jump into protective
exactly.
mode. Right.
But you got to just take a step back. If you're talking about building this relationship and an avenue of trust,
Right.
I have to listen. I got to take a step back, assess the situation, and then calmly engage in that, because we can turn them off quickly
Absolutely.
when we go
respond the
in
right
like
way.
a bull in a china cabinet,
Absolutely,
and that's not what we want. We
No.
want them to be engaged with
We
us.
want for them to open up to us and share with
Indeed,
us.
indeed. What about social media and promoting what the family looks like and how, I guess, significant does social media of a role does it play in family dynamics and dating?
Like I said, it plays a huge role in that we now have the World Wide Web and the internet and all these various social media channels where all this information is coming at us at once. I mean, there's one after the other, social media platform where you can get the information faster and faster and faster. Before it was just you had to type it in. Then it was like eventually you had emojis, and then you had a picture, and then you could put a video. But now you can just scroll for hours, and this is the influence. And many of us do it or guilty of doing it. But our young people who are still forming, in all ways, they're now bombarded with all this information from all these different places. And so it does make it more difficult, as I mentioned earlier, with parenting and with the family dynamics, because we have to set some standards and some restrictions around how much screen time a child is having, a youth is having, and even we as parents are, have them in front of them or whatever, that the screen is not where we should be getting our information from, all of our information and our values, right? That has its place for entertainment, and that's where it stays, right? But we have this home, we have a family where there's one or two parents, because I understand that is just where we are, that you have someone who you can go to, and not just your parent, but also this what I want to call your tribe of people, your support system who you can go to and not rely on getting your information there. So, but it takes active parenting, to do that, and so that children know this is just entertainment.
I want to chime in or piggyback on that when you say active parenting, because I mentioned that I'm now providing for my mom, and it's as if our roles have reversed.
I know that.
And when we talk about this generation being responsible for the next, we don't think about this generation being responsible for the generation ahead of us.
Right, the sandwich generation that we're in.
Yeah,
right?
the sandwich generation that we're in. So I think about that, and I'm not patting myself on the back or anything like that, but I think, what would, and I'm just talking about me because my siblings contribute to the care of my mom too, but what would my mom's life be like if she and my father had not given me some good parenting? You understand what I'm saying?
When you talk about the generational implications of this,
yes,
it's huge.
Learning to be patient with someone who is elderly, making the sacrifice to, I'm going to move in with my mom so she won't be by herself. So there were a lot of selfless lessons that were taught and modeled.
Right.
And I would be lying to you if I didn't say that I cried a few days because I'm thinking, I feel like my kids are grown. I was just getting to where I can I'm going, I'm traveling the world, and then boom.
Right, hit with this, right.
Yes.
Right, but you know what? That's part of it, right?
It is part of it.
We have to realize, as I said earlier, we're not in this alone. We're interdependent upon one another. This life is not about us only, our own selves. It's about the other people who are in our lives as well, to make this, a place where we all, can belong and feel a part of. And that means not forgetting about our elderly also, those who came before us, those who broke the barriers, those who went through all that they went through for us to live like we get to live and live comfortably. Everything that these folks went through for we owe it to them.
When I think about the sacrifices she and my dad made, when I reflect on the stories of them in the civil rights movement, when I reflect on the stories of them and the discrimination that they experienced on their jobs.
Right.
But when I think about how my mom would go to my dad on our behalf and say, "Can't you let those kids have some fun?" Because I'm a preacher's kid, right?
Right.
I just could not fathom our mother being in a nursing home.
Exactly. I took care of my mom also, so I understand. I took care of her for several months before she transitioned on, and I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. Like I told you, no matter what, seemed a burden or what others may have seen as a burden. It was not. I took pride in taking care of my mother, and I would do it all over again. I feel like, how dare I, not do that? And she took such good care of me, and let's go back to these children who are growing up in broken homes and brokenness, and who are coming from trauma, who are not getting a chance to see this. Just think about that. These children who are not so, and we live, all of us live what we learn. If you hadn't seen that shown to you, then you're not going to know it. And childhood is so precious. You can never get being a child back again. Once you're a child, you're a child. Once it's time to grow up, you have to grow up. And society sees you as an adult. So you have to act accordingly, even though we know we may have failed them in this system because they didn't get all those childhood experiences and get to see these types of things happening in the family. So how are they going to know to do that? Sure, some of it is innate, but not all of it is. So
the question I want to ask our audience is this: do you think that you have instilled in your children and maybe your grandchildren, and I'm just going to use the word enough,
oh gosh,
to where if you were to become incapacitated, they would say, I don't care what's going on over there. I'll give up my job to go take care of my parent. I'm moving in to do that. Do you think, you don't have to call, and I just want you to think about it, because it's never too late, number one, to make amends.
Right. Oh gosh, yes.
It's never too late to tell your children or anybody else that you love them.
Absolutely.
To try to fix things before it's too late.
Right.
So I just want you to think about, would my children do this for me? Because we're talking about relationships here.
Absolutely.
And this is not being selfish, it's being unconditional. And if you're not sure, then that means some work needs to take place. Because guess what, folks? If God lets us live long enough, we're going to need somebody.
Absolutely. And we don't think about that. We want to glamorize everything, but forget about what it's going to be like when we get to a point where we can't do this ourselves. Yeah. You made a comment, your first question then was, have we done enough? And it just reminded me of, as our son was graduating high school and going off to college, I remember this was one of my days, crying to myself and, saying, I hope I've done enough. I was at the house of myself, just like in my, emotions, like, and I remember just thinking, I really hope I've done enough. I hope I've shared all the messages. And he would probably laugh. His freshman year, I'd send him, text him or email him, mom tip, make sure to do your laundry. I would actually put it on schedule, have an alert. Make sure you did your laundry. Make sure you're eating your veggies. He teases me. But I wanted to make sure I had done my part because there's so much. Yeah. I remember when he turned 14, because again, it was going so fast. It's like 14. I bought a book that said, all the messages for your 14-year-old son or whatever. And he probably would laugh at me, but I was active and I was involved and engaged in making sure he got these messages, because I understood that in just a few short years, he was going to be out there, and he decided to go to school across the country, making these decisions on his own. We have a responsibility to do that, and we take it lightly. We can't wait till they get 18 and out of our house. That is one of my pet peeves. The whole 18 and out. No, exactly. First of all, when our son turned 18, I was like, who said 18 was an adult? First of all, who said that? Our society forces us 18. They're not ready to be full adult, take on adult responsibilities. And I do understand that some have to for different reasons, and I understand that even the generations prior to us, who didn't have all the stuff that we have, and they had to get out and start working and be an adult, grew up. But we're in a different world now, and children are not ready at 18 years old to just be out there on their own, So we have to be mindful of that. It's important that we are doing enough.
Okay.
I would like to answer your question right quick. I know we're running out of time. I'll make it quick.
Okay.
Do I think I've done enough? No. You know my backstory. For those of you who don't know my backstory, I was a wayward kid. And I ended up going away on vacation for about 16 years. Okay. So I missed 16 years of her life.
Wow.
So have I done enough? No. But do I think my oldest will come to me? Yes, because she's missing that lost time.
Right.
And the daughter that I take as my own, that is now 22, that I didn't father, but I'm the only father she knows. She was... It's a long story, but she took to me before my natural did.
Okay.
So she'll definitely be there.
Mhm.
She's 22 and she's daddy's baby.
And I think
So-
it's important, you have to say that it is never too late.
Yeah,
Right.
never too late.
It is never too late. Okay. You can always, turn
Mhm.
things around
Turn
and make
around.
things better. Sometimes it requires us, be the bigger person
That's right.
to go and
That's right.
apologize
That's
and
right.
do whatever, because life is precious.
Mhm.
It is
Mhm.
precious.
Yeah. Okay. How much time do we have, Malcolm? I know maybe about 5 minutes.
10 at the most.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Five exactly, 10 at the most.
Okay. All right. So you've touched on the other questions here. Well, any final words to the audience?
Yeah, we have touched on a lot, today, and thank you
Mhm.
so much. I would just say that
Thank
first,
you.
Annette
Thank
and
you.
Malcolm, and allowing me to come here and share and talk
Mhm.
about such an important topic that we
Yes,
just don't
yes.
talk about enough. We take it for granted,
Yes.
relationships, because we're just doing it to families or whatever.
Mhm.
But it is so important that we talk about this. And again, that is what we are what we are here for at Family Roots for Life.
Yeah.
And that is to build healthy families, to build healthy people, children,
Mhm.
adults,
Mhm.
and relationships and families.
Mhm.
We do know that, again, the family is the building blocks of society.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
because of those building blocks, if they're not sturdy enough, then we don't have
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
to stand
yeah,
on and hold us up. So it's very important that we have healthy families.
Now, is there a fee for the services?
That's a good question. So we are a nonprofit organization, and we are grant funded. And so we do have grants to cover many of our services, but not all of them. So some of our services there are fees for, but for the most part, the ones that are grant funded, and we do a lot of fundraising also to help us cover those, cover the services. So it's a mix of that. For the most part, they're not like our mentoring program. There is no fee for that.
Okay.
In fact, to talk about final thoughts, we do need more mentors, as we talked about. For those of you who are in the phase of your life to where you can give back, and you're open to giving back some, we don't even ask for a lot. We do full background checks and all that to make sure you're safe. But in terms of meeting with the youth and all that, we only require 2 contacts per month, one person in person. And we do ask that you make a minimum of a 1-year commitment to a young person. Our young people really, really, really need it.
Yeah.
And so we would like to open that up for those who want a mentor. Considering it, just call us.
Yeah.
We'd love to share.
And tell everybody how they can reach you.
Sure. So we are our website, and I believe Malcolm did mention that earlier. So you can find us at familyrootsforlife.org, and spell out for FOR. And we're on social media channels, the LinkedIn, with Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we're at Family Roots for Life Inc. So please follow us there. Give us a call at 832-800-7989. Also, again, 832-800-7989. Family Roots for Life.
One more time, the number.
The number again is 832-800-7989.
Okay,
Always.
I'll add that on there. And as I'm adding that on there, I'd like to pay attention to our last 2 commenters of the night. My 8:30 is here. Okay. The last 2 comments of the night are one from Glenda and one from Bridget, 2 from Bridget. One from Glenda first. My daughter and I just had the conversation, and I'm married still. She said she would quit her job and help take care of me. She's 42 years old. Bridget Lott said, yes, always tell my kids about their dad and I as we get older. All 3 watch me and my siblings take care of both of my parents until the end.
Awesome.
I resigned after 20 years at LBJ to take care of my dad. And Bridget Lott ends it with, always have the conversation with all 3 of my babies. They were present when my siblings and I took care of our parents, so they know what it takes.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I will add your number to your information.
Okay. Thank you.
Miss Natasha, I will
Appreciate
do that. I'll put this information up too. I put it up throughout the show. Your hyperlink is throughout the entire comment thread, the whole 2 hours.
Thank
So
you.
all you guys have to do is click her website and get more information. We have been with Dr. Annette. This is the Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette show, live on Real Talk 100 Radio. Let me make sure I'm on here. This is the Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette show, live on Real Talk 100 Radio. For the last 2 hours, we've been, Dr. Annette has been interviewing Family Roots for Life Incorporated. The company reunites, reconnects, and restores children, youth, and families. That's their objective, and that's their objective. Their information is as follows. Follow them at Family Roots for Life Incorporated on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and their website is listed as well. As I said earlier, their website is, the hyperlink to the website is throughout this comment thread. If you're on YouTube and if you're on Facebook, you can simply just click the hyperlink and go straight to the website for more information. That phone number I'm adding right now, I'll put it up right now because it's still here. Phone number is right here, everybody. Right there. There's the phone number too. I just added it to what I've already given you, 832-800-7989. And you do what? Outside of reconnecting and restoring children and youth. This is all about foster care.
It is not all about foster care, although we do serve and support youth and families impacted by foster care and juvenile justice and other at-risk populations.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right.
Do we have a split 30 seconds for you to put up next week's show flyer or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me get it. Let me get it right quick because I did not.
Okay.
I did
All right.
not.
So next week, guys, is the last show for the Wisdom Walk. You know, I've been saying that I have to take a step back to care for my mom and take care of myself as well. And she really, really needs the help. So we're going to go out with a bang next Friday. We have Rodney Hampton, who played for the New York Giants. New York Giants. I'm thinking about West Side Story.
All right.
Who's going to come and share himself with us. He's going to talk about graduating from Cashmere High School, going off to college, playing pro ball, where he is now. And so call in with your questions. We're going to have some giveaways, some autographed pictures and things like that. So it will be a very, very interesting show. You don't see the flyer? Okay.
No. I know it's in our inbox.
Uh-huh.
I know it's there. So let me search there right quick.
Okay.
And that's probably going to be the safest bet.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere right here, Rodney
Come
Hampton.
down. Yeah. There it is. Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. This is the flyer that the good doctor's talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've made my announcement. I just wanted you to show it. So that's the final show for the Wisdom Walk. We want you guys to join in next Friday. If you're a sports fanatic, this gentleman was inducted into the Ring of Honor for the New York Giants, has had a phenomenal career. He has a daughter who is also just as phenomenal in track and field, #1 in the nation. And so they'll talk about what it's like being a sports family. But his wife and I are actually therapists, and our offices are around the corner from each other, and that's how we met. And so it's just a very interesting and timely meeting, and I'm just so honored that he would grant me this interview for next week. So I don't have anything else. Again, Natasha, I want to thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
It was just awesome having you here, and a lot of good information that was shared. And I hope that people will take advantage of Family Roots for Life.
I hope so. And I appreciate you for having us in that. This has been a wonderful experience and opportunity to share.
Yes.
And to hear back from the listening audience. And I just appreciate you for hosting this show. Absolutely.
Indeed. Okay, Malcolm. I think that's it.
All right, everybody. All right. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for tuning in to yet another edition of the Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette Show. Next week is the grand finale, y'all. I might have to do Santa Claus and do her show from her rooftop from now on. Just joking. Grand finale to the Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette Show next week is the 23rd. We will have Rodney Hampton in the building, so please tag all football fans, all NFL football fans. This man went to the Hall of Fame. He played a lot of great football, and I can't wait to meet him. I'm still a fanatic. Played ball all the way up until my freshman year at U of H, and I can't wait to meet this guy. Can't wait to meet him. If you are a football fan, you have football fans in your friends and family, please tag them to this video and let them know that he will be on the show next week.
Mhm.
Friday, February 23rd, 2024, next Friday from 6:15 to 8:15, Dr. Annette will be interviewing him. He will be telling his story, his journey from Cashmere High School to the NFL and all points in between. So y'all tune in. I'd like to thank Miss Natasha for coming through.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank Miss Natasha for coming through. I would like to also thank the veterans. It wasn't their name came up as Relentless Defenders.
Mhm.
I'd like to thank the Relentless Defenders for their giveaway
Mhm. And South Shore Harbor.
and South Shore Harbor. I'm gonna need to tag them later. I could not find the right people, but thank
Mhm.
y'all for your donations. Thank you, thank you. If you would like to be in the place of Relentless Defenders and South Shore Harbors, and you would like to do a giveaway here on the Real Talk 100 Radio or the Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette show, please hit us on our email. Our email is realtalk100radio@gmail.com. Make sure you put 3 O's in the radio. We've used up way too much storage space, so now we can't use 1 O anymore. So now it's realtalk100radio@gmail.com. It's on the screen now. This is interested. If you're interested in promoting or advertising your business, events, or music, send your information to realtalk100radio@gmail.com, and we will make sure we create awareness about your brand too. Donations are accepted. Thank you so much, y'all. That's all we have this evening, as comments are still flowing in from Miss Bridget Lott, Miss Glenda Smith, and Anto Survivor. We got to get out of here, y'all.
Thank you, Bridget, Glenda, Donna, Ruby, everybody. Thank you. I love you all.
All right. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Glenda and Anto. Sorry, I have another show coming up at 8:30. We're going to talk about this guy right here on an upcoming interview right after I get out of here and clear everything up. It's a stage play. They're coming in to talk about the stage play, Black Boys Cry, from 8:30. If I can prep in time, from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, y'all, we're going to be talking about an upcoming play that's coming to Houston, Texas. It's called Black Boys Cry, everybody. Y'all keep it locked to Real Talk 100 Radio until I get out of here tonight and learn more about this play. It's coming. One play I believe is happening tonight, but he's here to talk about tonight. He's here to talk about tomorrow's play. So that's all I got for tonight. This has been another edition of the Wisdom Walk with Dr. Annette show on Real Talk 100 Radio. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
How are you?